Hello, and welcome to the ISSMA Academy and Phase 2 of our Adjudicator Certification Training. I'm Mark Middleton, Instrumental Education Director for the Indiana State School Music Association. If you're watching this video, you should have already completed Phase 1 of the training by either attending the Phase 1 training session at the IMEA conference in January of 2016, or by watching the online video on the ISSMA Academy website. In Phase 2 of the Adjudicator certification process, we will focus on endorsement training for specific events offered by ISSMA throughout the year. District JME and high school organization festivals have been examined in a previous video session on this website. In this session, we will examine district solo and ensemble festivals for winds, percussion, and strings. Let's begin by reviewing the recognized events for each instrument family offered at the ISSMA Solo and Ensemble festivals. In the woodwind family, solo events are offered for piccolo, C flute, alto and bass flute, oboe, English horn, bassoon, E-flat clarinet, B-flat clarinet, alto clarinet, bass clarinet, contrabass and contralto clarinet, alto sax, tenor sax, baritone sax, bass sax, and soprano sax. Woodwind ensemble offerings include trios, quartets, quintets, sextets, and large ensembles that range from 7 to 20 members. Many of these ensembles have specific instrumentation requirements, while the miscellaneous ensembles, event numbers 28, 33, 41, and 45, may contain any combination of woodwinds not previously listed. Brass solo offerings include trumpet and cornet, flugelhorn, French horn, mellophone and alto horn, trombone, bass trombone, baritone and euphonium, and tuba and sousaphone. Brass ensemble offerings coincide with those offered for woodwinds, including trios, quartets, quintets, sextets, and large ensembles or choirs of 7 to 20 members. As with the woodwind ensembles, many brass ensemble offerings have specific instrumentation requirements, while event numbers 69, 75, 81, and 86 are miscellaneous ensembles that may contain any combination of brass instruments not previously listed. Solo offerings in the percussion family include drum set, xylophone, marimba, and vibraphone, orchestra bells in group 5 and 4 only, snare drum, timpani, multiple percussion, and multi-tenor. Percussion ensembles follow a somewhat different format than those in the woodwind and brass offerings, consisting of percussion and mallet ensembles for 3 to 6 performers, large percussion and mallet ensembles for 7 to 20 performers, and large marching percussion ensembles of 7 to 20 performers. Finally, solo offerings in the string family include violin, viola, cello, and string bass. String ensemble offerings include trios, quartets, quintets, and sextets. Again, some of these are for specific instrumentations, while events 133, 138, 140, and 144 are miscellaneous ensembles for any combination of strings not listed. The large string ensemble and like string instrument choir may both contain 7 to 20 performers. The string wind ensemble may contain 3 to 20 performers performing chamber literature written for a combination of winds and strings, such as the Bach-Brandenburg Concerti or the Mozart Clarinet Quintet in A. The string piano ensemble for 3 to 5 performers is similar, utilizing chamber literature for piano and strings, such as the Schubert Trout Quintet or the Brahms piano trios. All solo and ensemble events follow a 5-tiered classification system based on grade level, difficulty of the music performed, and the experience ability level of the student performers. Although this material was already covered in the Phase 1 training, here is a quick review. Group 5 would consist of students in grades 5 through 8 performing very easy music. This classification is reserved for inexperienced, first-time entrants in a solo and ensemble event. Group 4 events are geared towards beginning students in grades 5 through 9 performing easy-level music. This classification would be for mostly first or second-year players. Group 3 solo and ensembles involve developing and intermediate-level students in grades 5 through 12 performing medium-easy to medium music. At the Group 2 level, students in grades 5 through 12 would perform medium to medium difficult music. This classification is for more advanced student performers that are not quite at Group 1 level ability. Group 1 level is the highest classification, consisting of the most proficient students in grades 5 through 12 playing difficult music from the current required music lists for each instrument family. Group 1 solo and ensembles that earn a gold rating at the district level are eligible to perform at State Solo and Ensemble Festival. This 5-tiered classification system allows directors to enter their students in appropriate group levels based on the criteria for each, as well as allowing students to progress through the different group levels as they develop and mature in their musical and technical abilities. Students that receive a gold rating are encouraged to move up to the next highest group level the following year, with the ultimate goal being a gold rating in Group 1. As an adjudicator, you may be listening to events in several different group levels in the same adjudication day, so it's very important to be aware of what group level you are judging and what the criteria are for that particular classification. Let's now examine some general guidelines for all ISSMA solo and ensemble events. All entries must perform in the group level in which they are entered. This information is indicated at the top of the sheet. The exception to this is a Group 1 event which is not performing a piece from the required music list for that event. Such entries will be judged in Group 2. This infraction should be indicated in the box at the bottom of the adjudication sheet, and notification should be made to the office. Performance time should be no more than the scheduled time for the event minus 1 minute. Group 4 and 5 solos operate on a 5-minute schedule, so the maximum performance time should be 4 minutes. Solos in Groups 3, 2, and 1 are on a 6-minute schedule, so the maximum performance time should be 5 minutes. Group 4 and 5 ensembles run on a 5-minute schedule, so the maximum performance time should be 4 minutes. Ensembles in Groups 3, 2, and 1 are on a 6-minute schedule, so the maximum performance time should be 5 minutes. All large ensembles run on an 8-minute schedule, so the maximum performance time should be 7 minutes. Large percussion ensembles operate on a 10-minute schedule, so the maximum performance time should be 9 minutes. A judge may stop an event which runs past its allotted time. The judge, however, should not stop a performance and ask that it be restarted at another point in the composition or stop the performance before the allotted time has elapsed. Suitable cuts can be made by the student performers or teachers if the composition being performed exceeds the time allotted for that event. If cuts are made, the total performance must demonstrate the overall demands of the composition. The cuts should be clearly marked in the music. Solos or ensembles may elect to perform one movement from a multi-movement piece to meet the time requirements for the event. In a Group 1 event, the movement chosen would need to demonstrate and meet the demands of a Group 1 composition. Attempts have been made in the latest woodwind and brass manual revisions to include standardized cuts and specific movement requirements when possible for pieces that exceed the time limit requirements for the particular event. Group 1 events must play literature from the ISSMA required manual. Each judge that will be adjudicating Group 1 events will be provided with a copy of the required list for the events in their room. When there is no required list for an approved ensemble entering in Group 1, a composition may be selected from the required list of another event category in the same instrument family and arranged for that ensemble. Or, an appropriate composition may be used which does not appear on a required list, but is written for the correct instrumentation of the performing ensemble. Solo and ensemble performances are open auditions. Anyone is allowed in the room to listen to the event. Memorization is not required for instrumental solos at district or state. Percussion scales, arpeggios, drum set patterns, and timpani roll requirements must be performed from memory. Snare drum rudiments must be performed by memory only at state, not at district. Solos and ensembles may be performed with or without piano accompaniment. Piano or recorded piano are the only recognized accompaniment instruments. Other instruments may not be used for accompaniment. The Smart Music Accompaniment program may be used, but it must be set for the piano sound and be played in the key indicated on the music. If harpsichord is the only keyboard option, it may be used. Each event must provide the judge with a score having all performed measures numbered. The penalty for not having measures numbered is 1 division lower. The penalty for not providing a complete musical score to the judge is also 1 division rating lower. You may want to post a sign outside your door as a helpful reminder stating all performed measures must be numbered. Individual parts are not an acceptable alternative to a full score for ensemble events. A piano part that contains all instrumental parts is acceptable for both solos and ensembles. Any infraction of this type should be circled in the box at the bottom of the sheet. The purpose of listing publishers in the required list manuals is to ensure that a simplified version of the music is not used. If the publisher on the music being performed in a Group 1 event does not match the publisher listed in the required manual, check to see that the music is not a simplified arrangement or version of the original, and that the composer-arranger matches the listing. If the edition being used is obviously a true representation of the original piece and of the Group 1 level difficulty, it is acceptable. If it is not the edition in the manual and has been edited or simplified in any way, the event should be judged for rating in Group 2 rather than in Group 1. If an event gives you a photocopied part or score, do not add points to their score or penalize the performer in any way, as they most likely had nothing to do with the situation. You may provide a written comment on the bottom of the adjudication sheet to the director that original music should be provided due to federal copyright law. If an event does not appear at the time indicated on the schedule, hold on to the sheet until you have official word that the event will not appear, or until the end of the day, whichever comes first. At that point, mark the sheet DNA and turn it in to contest headquarters. From time to time, check to make sure that the doorkeeper is posting ratings on the schedule outside your room. There are many unique factors and differences in percussion events for solo and ensemble. Let's look at some percussion protocol. For percussion solos, it's appropriate for the judge to offer soloists the option to perform rudiments, rhythm patterns, or scale and arpeggio requirements either before or after performing their solo. Multi-tenor solos perform the same rudiment requirements as snare drum solos. Group 4 and 5 snare and multi-tenor soloists have the option of using multiple bounce or rudimental rolls for the rudiment requirements. A soloist not completing all of the requested rudiment, scale, or rhythm pattern requirements for their event may still receive partial credit for what was performed. The scoring rubric for this is at the top of the percussion solo sheet. All rudiment, scale, and rhythm pattern requirements for each instrument and group level can be found on the reverse side of the percussion solo sheet. Notice that in Group 4 and 5, the required elements performed are the student's choice, while the judge will choose the elements for Groups 3, 2, and 1. For percussion ensembles, parts may be doubled. The number on the required list indicates the number of parts, not performers. Ensembles may perform with fewer members than entered, but all parts must be covered. Large ensembles of 7 to 20 appearing with 6 or less performers, or small ensembles of 3 to 6 appearing with 2 performers, will be judged for comment only. Percussion and mallet ensembles of 3 to 6 members must consist of the same minimum number of performers as written parts. In other words, a 3-member ensemble cannot use music written for 4 parts. The penalty for any of these infractions is 1 division rating lower. Electronic instruments may not be substituted for indicated instruments. The exception for this is the use of an electric bass if it is indicated in the musical score. Before the performance of each event, check the adjudication sheet for correct information, including performer's name, school, event number, group level, and required selection number for Group 1 events only. A Group 1 entry may perform a different selection than the one listed on the sheet as long as it is on the required list for that event. You should indicate the change on the score sheet by writing in the 3-digit number of the new selection from the required list for that event. If the new selection does not appear on the required list, the event should be judged in Group 2 for a rating. The infraction should be indicated in the box at the bottom of the sheet, and contest headquarters should be notified. You should allow accompanists time to warm up and get a feel for the piano, as well as allowing performers to tune to the piano or each other in the case of an ensemble. Both of these things can take place while you are finishing your written assessment of the previous event. Let's take a closer look now at the assessment tools that you will use as an adjudicator at an ISSMA solo and ensemble event, the official adjudicator's comment sheet. All woodwind, brass, and string solo events will use the instrumental solo sheet, while woodwind, brass, and string ensembles of all varieties will be evaluated with the instrument ensemble sheet. All percussion ensemble events will use the percussion ensemble sheet, while all varieties of percussion solos are evaluated with the percussion solo sheet. Both of these sheets have been designed specifically to accommodate the unique nature of the instruments in the percussion family. All 4 of the comment sheets are set up to be used from left to right, with 9 assessment categories on the left-hand side, followed by an area in the middle of the sheet to make specific remarks and comments, as well as referencing specific measures in the music. The area on the far right of the sheet is used to assign point totals to each assessment category that aligns with the specific comments in the middle of the sheet, and the rubric describing each specific point total. Be sure that you make comments that can be used by the students and directors to improve future performances, and provide justification for your rating. Make encouraging comments as well as critical ones. If you do nothing more than check ratings boxes, you are not providing an assessment that can be used to enhance instruction. Ask yourself, if the numbers were removed from the sheet, what would this student or students get from my assessment? The rubric used to determine the point totals in each category is divided into 7 possible results. Assigning a 1 to a category would indicate a performance that was outstanding in nearly every detail. This does not mean a perfect performance, but one that demonstrates obvious proficiency in preparation. A 1.5 would indicate some minor flaws, but still a very polished and accomplished performance. A 2 would indicate frequent minor flaws, meaning that the performance in that area was a little less polished, with some inconsistencies in preparation evident. A 2.5 is described as some major flaws, indicative of a more inconsistent performance with less than careful preparation evident. The last 3-point values, 3 frequent major flaws, 3.5 continuous major flaws, and 4 unacceptable in nearly every detail, should be used sparingly, if at all, except in obvious cases of careless performance and preparation. When using this rubric to assign point values to the 9 categories, it is important to keep in mind that the numbers should be an accurate reflection of the comments you provided in the middle column of the sheet. Positive, complimentary comments, followed by a 2.5 in a category, is confusing to the director and performer, and it is also difficult to justify. Conversely, a rubric with all 1s and no supportive comments is equally frustrating for the director and performer looking for a thorough formative assessment. Be aware also that your tolerance level for what constitutes each of the point values should be adjusted depending on the group level of the event and experience level of the performer. In other words, the level of achievement expected to receive a 1 is not the same in group 4 or 5 as it is in group 2 or 1. Now let's examine the sheet used to evaluate both percussion and mallet ensembles, the Percussion Ensembles comment sheet. When adjudicating percussion ensembles, it is important to be a visual observer as well as an analytical listener. Make sure that the room is set up in such a way as to provide you with the best possible vantage point to allow this to happen. The first category on the sheet refers to the setup. Allow and encourage the students to use a setup with which they are comfortable and let them know they can move equipment wherever needed. Evaluate the practicality and musicality of the ensemble setup. Many performance problems are often caused by an inadequate setup, and these problems often go undiagnosed. Your expertise as a percussionist can be of great benefit by offering positive, musically sound recommendations in this area. Category 2 examines rhythm and ensemble cohesion. Descriptors for this category include individual and ensemble accuracy, fluency, and correct entrances. Evaluate the precision of both the individual members and the ensemble. Questions to be asked and answered in this category are, is the ensemble playing together, and how well rehearsed is this ensemble? Pitch and tuning accuracy make up the third assessment category. Considerations would include accuracy of both pitched and non-pitched note assignments, including correct keyboard notes, accurate timpani tuning, and correct interpretation of drum and auxiliary notation. Category 4 deals with dynamics. In this category, consider and evaluate the use of an appropriate range of dynamic contrasts as dictated by the written music, both from an individual and ensemble perspective. Tolerances or expectations may need to be adjusted due to group and experience level. Category 5 examines balance and blend. Considerations include statement of the melodic line in harmony with the accompanying parts, as well as section and/or ensemble blend. Evaluate the ease in which the players represent the melody, the accompaniment, and the blend of timbres called for in the score. Tone quality and technique is represented in Category 6. Considerations for this category include acceptable playing technique and correct implements on all instruments of the ensemble. The judge should sample every player in the ensemble and determine the technical competency of each musician to produce acceptable tone on each instrument. This is especially important for accessory or auxiliary instruments. Students and directors need to be aware that it is just as important to get the correct sound from an accessory instrument as it is to get other elements of the performance correct. It is also important to consider implement choice in regard to tone production. Category 7 concerns tempo control. Considerations include observation of appropriate tempo, steadiness, and control of notated changes. Judges should evaluate the notated tempi and control of those tempi, as well as changes in tempo by individuals and the ensemble. A specific tempo is often indicated to validate the technical demands of a piece, so adhering to the indicated tempo is important, even though a slower tempo might lead to a cleaner performance. Category 8 encompasses musicianship of the ensemble performance. Elements to consider include expression, phrasing, interpretation, style, and nuance. Evaluate all these factors and how they lead towards an effective musical performance in the given style of the piece. The final category is other factors. Consider suitable cuts for length and non-musical factors that may add or detract from the performance. Evaluate the posture, poise, and overall decorum of the individuals and the ensemble as a whole. While there are no rules to dictate what constitutes appropriate dress, comments concerning appearance as it relates to the performance are applicable. When judging percussion solos, keep some of the following general concepts in mind. First, percussion technique is visible, so watch each performance carefully to evaluate most of the categories on the sheet, as well as following the printed music. Second, judges should appreciate approaches to technique, tone, and stylistic interpretation that might be different from their personal preferences. If what you see and hear goes contrary to what is generally found to be an effective performance, then it is appropriate to point that out. Third, good tone on an instrument will vary, depending on the level of technique and the quality of the equipment being used. Finally, it is important that in each category, the adjudicator keeps in mind the group level of the performer and the realistic expectations for a player at that particular level. The percussion solo sheet is set up quite differently from the other sheets due to the uniqueness of all the instruments that one sheet is asked to evaluate. The categories and descriptors are divided into 3 columns of instrument groupings: snare drum and multi-tenor, keyboard, and multi-percussion, timpani, and drum set. The first category is for the required element for each event, i.e. rudiments, scales and arpeggios, rolls, intervals, and rhythm patterns. As was stated earlier, it is important to read and understand the scoring rubric for the required patterns at the top of the sheet. Students are judged not only on the quality of the demonstration, but on the number of correct patterns demonstrated. A 2 is the best possible score if one requirement is missing, a 3 if 2 requirements are missing, and a 4 if all requirements are missing. For snare and multi-tenor, follow the guidelines on the back of the sheet for rudiment requirements. The Indiana standard is the Percussive Arts Society 40. This rudiment information is found on pages 39 to 41 of the Percussion Manual, including a list of rudiments and the minimum tempo acceptable for each group level. The rudiments are divided into 4 categories or groupings: roll rudiments, diddle rudiments, flam rudiments, and drag rudiments. Students should not choose or be asked by the judge to perform 2 rudiments from the same grouping. Acceptable methods of demonstration are decrescendo crescendo, from fortissimo to pianissimo and back, or a traditional rundown from slow to fast and back to slow. For keyboard events, scales and arpeggios are to be played using one of the options detailed on page 38 of the Percussion Manual. Group 4 and 5 need only to do 1 octave, while Group 1 should most definitely do 2 octaves. Partial credit can be given in Groups 3 and 2 if the scales and arpeggios are correct, but only demonstrated in 1 octave. These requirements are to be played from memory at both district and state for all group levels. Group and octave requirements are listed on the back of the adjudication sheet. Multi-percussion soloists do not have required patterns due to the amount of time required to set up. Judges are to always score 1 point in this category for that event. Timpani roll and interval requirements are found on the back of the sheet, as well as on page 38 of the Percussion Manual. Drum set patterns for each group level are found on pages 31 to 37 of the Percussion Manual. Group level requirements are found on the back of the sheet. All drum set patterns are to be played from memory. Group 3, 2, and 1 drum set soloists are expected to provide and be able to play brushes if requested by the judge. The second category on the percussion solo sheet deals with rhythm. Descriptors in this category include accuracy and fluency in the performance of the rhythmic content of the written solo, and general pulse control throughout the piece. This category should be judged independently from the tempo control category. When problems in this area arise, the judge must decide if a student is performing the rhythmic content incorrectly or if they are struggling with maintaining accurate tempo control. Category 3 is a split category depending on the instrument being evaluated. For snares and multi-tenors, the category is called embellishments. For all others, it is referred to as pitch accuracy. Under embellishments, the judge should evaluate the quality, clarity, and stylistic appropriateness of the performer's rolls, flams, ruffs, and other non-traditional techniques or effects. For keyboard solos, this category rates the note accuracy of the performance separate from all other categories. For timpani, drum set, and multi-percussion, evaluate the correct placement of note and/or instrument assignments, including timpani intonation. The fourth category evaluates the performance of dynamics within the written solo. Judges are to listen for the demonstration of the appropriate dynamic range and contrast contained in the performance as observed on the written score. It should be noted that this category is one where you will most likely need to temper expectations on group level and experience when considering these elements. Category 5 evaluates the technique displayed by the soloist. Elements included in the descriptors for this category include correct grip, demonstration of stroke types and sticking, indicated in the score, and technical elements of the equipment and setup. For snare drum, notice all aspects of the physical approach to grip, stroke, and drum placement. Judges will see a wide variety of traditional and matched grips. You should not show a preference for either approach, but point out the positive and negative aspects of each performer's technique. You will gain a good first impression of this while the student plays with their rudiments, but you should also visually check this periodically during the solo as well. For multi-tenor solos, especially at the district level, you should watch the performer as much as the printed score. Look for correct movements around the drums and be aware of stickings that are indicated in the score, since composers may want a certain sweep pattern even though a passage might be played a different way if no stickings were indicated. When judging keyboard solos, notice wrist and arm motions and recognize the proper demonstration of multi-mallet grips such as cross grip, Burton, Stevens, or Stout. Keyboard height may also be evaluated in this category. Judges should be observant that the sticking patterns students are using are logical and musical, not just the most convenient. For timpani, drum set, and multi-percussion, instrument setup should be evaluated in this category, as well as correct grip, stroke, and appropriate movements around the equipment. Correct setup in these events can have a big impact on the success of a performance. Category 6 focuses on tone quality. Descriptors in this category include implement choice, tuning, contact point, and technique, all elements that can have an impact on the overall tone quality of the performance. With regard to snare drum, good tone is very subjective. There's a wide variety of acceptable snare drum tones, depending on the type of drum being used, i.e. a field drum or a concert snare, the pitch level of the batter and snare heads, the looseness or tightness of the snare tension, and the weight of the stick used versus the type of drum. At the lower group levels, students do not always have any control over the quality of the drum they are using, which should be taken into consideration when evaluating this category. A snare strainer that is a little too loose or tight, or heads that are tuned too high or low, may merit a small deduction in points. If multiple problems exist, then a larger deduction may be warranted. For multi-tenors, you will once again hear a wide variety of tuning options, often depending on the type of marching band at that student's school. If the tuning does not work for the written passage or it falls too far outside an acceptable range, then you must decide on a rating that fairly addresses the concerns. The quality of the instrument is often a big issue with keyboard, timpani, drum set, and multi-percussion performances. The judge should evaluate tone on contact point and implement choice, as well as the overall tone of the instrument. The student has control over their technique, but not necessarily the instrument provided by the school host or their home school instrument. Also, younger students may not always have a choice of what mallets they have to use. The seventh category on the percussion solo sheet deals with tempo control. This category should be evaluated separately from Category 2, Rhythm. Descriptors in this category cover elements such as appropriate tempo, steadiness, and notated tempo changes in the music. Judges should evaluate the performer's adherence to the notated tempi and changes and the control of those tempi. Often a piece is considered for the Group 1 list because of the technical demands resulting from a specific tempo range. This should not be discounted in the evaluation, even though a performance might be played more cleanly at a slower tempo than what is notated. Category 8 deals with the overall musicianship of the performance. Elements of the music covered in the descriptors for this category include expression, phrasing, interpretation, style, and nuance. Consider all factors dealing with these elements that leads toward an effective musical performance in the given style of the piece. This is another category where the expectation level of achievement should grow as you ascend through the group levels. The final category is other factors. Consider suitable cuts for length and musical factors that add to or detract from the total performance. Give credit to students who demonstrate excellent posture, good poise, and decorum during the performance. While there are no rules regarding what constitutes appropriate dress, comments concerning appearance as it relates to the performance are applicable. Now that we have examined in detail the different sheets for all instrumental solo and ensemble events, and the things to look and listen for during the performances, let's examine what should take place after the performance is complete. First, make sure that each category has written comments, including specific references and measure numbers, and has also been given a point value. Points in each category are then added and written in the total points line. Next, based on the total number of points, you will then circle the correct rating that reflects the point total. The bottom portion of the sheet and the back of the sheet, if necessary, should be used to write suggestions for overall improvement. Finally, to complete the sheet, circle any infraction that occurred at the bottom of the sheet, then sign your name on the line labeled Judge's Signature. Once you have completed filling out the evaluation sheet for an event, indicate the correct rating earned for that event on the metal voucher card provided. Return the music, score sheet, and metal voucher card to your judge's assistant so that they may pass them along to the doorkeeper and/or office runner. You may hold the sheets for the first 3 events of the day if you feel it necessary to help set your judging tolerance for the day. Be sure to keep a record of the ratings you assign for every event, so that you can accurately complete the judge's summary sheet, which you will turn in to contest headquarters at the end of the day. Let's now examine some do's and don'ts of solo and ensemble adjudication. Do establish and maintain a relaxed, comfortable climate and atmosphere in your room. Be friendly and attempt to put students, accompanists, parents, and teachers at ease. Remember, people need to know how much you care before they care how much you know. Don't show partiality or familiarity. What may seem funny or engaging to you may not be taken that way by a student or parent already facing an anxious situation. Also, please avoid asking such questions as, how old are you? What grade are you in? Who is your teacher? And do you study privately? Do know and understand the rules and guidelines for the event you are adjudicating. Specific instructions can be found in the ISSMA Festival Manual, the solo and ensemble required music lists, and the briefing materials you received at the festival site during the judges' meeting. Don't create or interpret rules to accommodate your personal desires or beliefs, or to make a situation more convenient. If you are in doubt about a specific rule, listen to the group first, adjudicate the event through written comments with no point assessment, and then check with event headquarters for an interpretation before providing a score. Do not, however, listen to any event for which you do not have a prepared adjudication sheet. If a soloist or ensemble appears for whom you don't have a sheet, send them immediately to the contest headquarters. Do use the whole assessment tool. Each of the 9 categories has equal weight in the final rating and therefore has equal importance in the overall evaluation. Don't dwell or focus on certain areas of the assessment sheet that may be your pet peeves or areas you feel are the most important. While students may have more numerous performance concerns in certain categories, remember to treat each category equally. Do maintain good time management in your room schedule. Stay in performance sequence as much as possible, but if there are DNAs or performers with other conflicts, ask for the next event. A brief thank you or comments of encouragement after the performance are okay, as long as there is time in the schedule. Don't fall behind in the time schedule by giving lengthy private lessons. Let the comments that you write on the sheet speak for themselves. Do write comments in the specific remarks column for each category first, then use those comments and the rubric to determine the points assigned in each category. Your numbers and point total should match the comments you make. Don't manipulate or make points fit a preconceived notion of what constitutes a particular rating. Saying to yourself that something sounded like a 14.5 silver and then assigning points to fit that determination runs contrary to the intent and purpose of the assessment sheet for this event. Do be visually observant as well as orally observant. Acknowledge the performers both before and after the performance, as well as occasionally referencing the performance visually while it's going on. Many problems that you hear during the performance may be a direct or indirect result of issues that you can observe visually, such as poor posture, incorrect hand and finger position, or weak embouchure formation. Don't bury your head in the music or the score sheet. It's important to stay connected with the performers and let them know you're interested in listening. A judge that never looks up misses out on this important element of the evaluative process. Do make specific remarks and reference measure numbers during your evaluation. Maintain a balance of positive and critical comments. Teachers and students will be more likely to gain from an assessment that avoids being overly critical, but that also acknowledges elements of strong achievement. Make sure you provide a quality formative assessment by following the 3 C's of evaluation: compliment, criticize, and provide a course for improvement. Don't make general or generic comments without citing specific examples for support. Such comments as fine, well done, could be better, or flat don't provide much in the way of an educational assessment for the student or the director if specific examples in the music or measure numbers are not cited, or if there are no suggestions for improvement. When serving as an adjudicator in an ISSMA solo and ensemble event, it's important to remember that you are an agent of the association and are therefore representing ISSMA in your promptness, courtesy, dress and deportment, and your interactions with the host, the volunteer workers from the school, such as runners and doorkeepers, your fellow adjudicators, the directors, and the students of the participating schools. Set a good example for performance etiquette by remaining at your station and making sure your electronic devices are silenced during the performances. Do not use this event as an opportunity to recruit students for your school, private studio, or website by distributing materials, brochure, or contact information. Thank you for taking the time to complete this Phase 2 endorsement training for instrumental solo and ensemble events. I also want to thank the directors and adjudicators that contributed to the information presented in this video. Now it is time to test your knowledge of what you have learned by completing a short true-false questionnaire. We hope you hear many musically pleasing performances as an adjudicator, and we appreciate your continued interest in ISSMA and the students and teachers of our member schools that we strive to serve.